Okay, so today's guest is an entrepreneur, builder, and somebody with an incredibly interesting story on perspective and growth. Originally from Ukraine, he came to Canada chasing bigger opportunities and eventually found himself in the world of door-to-door sales. What started as a way to make money quickly became something much bigger: confidence, communication, resilience, pressure, personal growth, and entrepreneurship. Today, he's focused on building apps and tools designed to help people solve real problems and improve their lives through technology. This episode is about growth, discomfort, ambition, entrepreneurship, and why some of the most valuable lessons in life still come from knocking on a stranger's door. Roman, welcome to the podcast.
My friend
For
Roman,
the warm.
welcome.
We're in 3 different cities right now. Hey?
Yeah, what city are you in? Where are you located at this moment?
Right now, I am in Mexico
Well,
City,
why'd
New
you pick
York
Mexico
of
City?
Latin America.
Why that city out of all your choices?
Like a bunch of random occurrences.
I'm going to pause you. I'm going to stop that. That actually, we'll save that because actually that's a whole story that I hope people get to hear afterwards. But before we get to that, why don't I ask you, I'm lucky enough to know you. Quinn knows you, but who is Roman? Tell us who Roman is in his core.
I feel like at my core, I'm just a really curious person and somebody who sniffs everything that catches my attention, and I kind of just go for it because I do many different things. And I think what ties them together is just
And what are
pure
those
curiosity.
What are some of these things that you've begun to sniff out as of late?
Yeah, as of late. So I've always been interested in human psychology. And the reason for it is because when I look at the world, you can think about its original state and the state it's in now. It's just pure nature. But now we have all this infrastructure around the world, like cities and countries and buildings. And all of that came from the mind. I always thought that was very interesting. And where that has taken me now is social media. It seems like wherever you go, everyone's on their phones. Like you could be walking the street, you look to the right, and there's a person staring at their phone while they're walking. They're staring at their phone while they're driving. They're looking at their phone while they're peeing. Like people are not just staring at their phones in normal situations, but even just stuck to them at all times. And I think there's an opportunity, and they're not just looking at their phones, they're looking at social media. So all the attention is clustering around social media networks. And I think that's fascinating because there's so much opportunity to somebody who wants to build something, launch something. You just have such an accessible medium.
Well, you
for
went back
connecting
and
with
finished
people.
was it a psych degree you went and finished? Is that what you ended up doing? Okay, and so
Yeah, I
even
did.
backstory to that is, I mean, I met you way back when we were working together as you were younger at the time, barely knew English. When he walked in the door, get me job, I'm good at work, or something like this is how it sounded. And from that, this was how many years ago, Rome? Is it 10 years ago, maybe? Yes.
It's
8-9 years ago.
Almost
So
9,
I've been lucky enough
8,
to
9
watch
years.
you walk in that door that day. It's the same person I'm talking to now, though. It's the same. I will try it. I'm curious. I want to figure out how people are. I mean, that's psychology. You're in social media now, which I think is interesting. You were selling us on why you should do that. You've always been in sales even prior. I know things about your Michael Jackson dance moves. I know weird things about you that I love. You've always been inside of a form of entertainment. I know bits about you that like to test framework of societies and how things work. I know you're very observant and always watching and learning. And so I know psychology in school, but I want to go back to the door piece a little bit. So what was it that you learned in direct sales when you first came over from Ukraine? And then give us sort of window of time, those first few years. What was it? What were the skill sets that you started learning and are now still with you perhaps?
Yeah, one of the reasons I decided to do door-to-door sales, I thought I want to be an entrepreneur, and this could be a great way to start building real skills for the future. Because if you think about it, a commission sales job is a smaller version of running a business. And if you can't do that part, how could you run a business? You need to understand at least that part. And that was one of my motivators. The other one was being new to Canada. I thought if I knock on a bunch of doors, I'll just get better at being Canadian. I understand how to connect with people better because it is a foreign society to me at the time, which comes with its own challenges. But in terms of those first 2 years, what I took away is one thing that brought to my attention as a thought that to this day has stuck with me is when you're knocking doors, as long as you do it right, meaning that you're approaching each door with intention, with some type of framework you want to test on this door. Could be just a close. It could be one line. It could be a joke, whatever that is. But material, if you're approaching each door with test material, you want to test, what's going to happen is in the long run, after you knock thousands of doors, you're building this database in the back of your mind that people couldn't take away from you. And then when you do that for long enough, for example, I did it for 5 summers, as you enter new areas of your life, let's say social media marketing, or it could be performance on stage. You have this database that's supporting you. It's invisible to others, but in the back of your mind, you have this infrastructure that allows you to respond better and quicker to these new situations. So these new situations are never new to you because you have such an abundant infrastructure that's supporting you. And I think people don't realize that when they knock doors. So a lot of people, when they knock doors, they approach it in a sloppy way. You know, they just think about, oh, like I could make some money. They don't think about its entirety of what it has to offer. And I think I really took that job seriously when it comes to building that database for myself. And to this day, what I'm doing now is completely different if an outsider looks.
Interesting.
But to me, nothing.
Quinn, what do you
has
think about
changed.
that? When you hear the word database, when I hear the word database, it's an interesting concept, I think. What is that? What does that mean when someone says database, do you think? General question. I'm kind of asking the group here. Like, it's almost like personal equity, or like, it sounds like a place of hyper experiences that are baked in and somehow are at your disposal in real-time use cases today or at any point.
I have an analogy that I think is an interesting one. Like, it's the taxi driver in New York versus the 19-year-old who just got his license in, I don't know, Toronto or something. The driver in New York knows every tiny corner, every little hack on how to navigate this massive city and can get you there so quickly. Maybe quicker than AI could, just because
He could
just
sniff
has,
around
like, so much
corners.
data. Yeah, exactly. That's perfect. Yeah, he can sniff around corners.
It's so interesting. I want to ask too, Roman, like, just because as you're talking, it's such a unique perspective on everything. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say the things you're saying right now. So specifically even around the database, it's funny. Who do you follow? Like, who do you get your concepts or thought patterns, or where does that come from?
This is an interesting question. So in high school, I thought if I read every book, then I'm gonna get places. I'm gonna get to where I want. I read biographies, fiction, nonfiction, all of it. I made a goal, like I'm gonna read 4 books this week. And I thought that's what's gonna get me ahead. But later in my life, I made a completely different decision where I quit on learning, like following others. Like I stopped. I'm not saying it's a bad thing to read biographies, but I stopped embracing like other people, like Elon Musk, for example. I used to be a fan, but now I care less because I started to focus on my own path, which is completely unique to me because I experience things different than every other person in this world. Like how it feels in my body, all the little tensions or like joy, like whatever, like how it feels physiologically is unique to me. Therefore, I need to match this journey to that. And that requires following myself and following what's visible to me specifically. And you know, I always think about this question. I've been asking this question to a bunch of people. I asked them, would you trade lives with anyone? And people say no. So while they're following some people on social media or through biographies, ultimately nobody has said, I want to trade lives with anyone. I asked them why, and they say, because this is my story. Like I'm here to discover, I'm here to explore. Like you don't want to delegate exploration. That would be weird. Like imagine you went on a trip to China and you delegated somebody else to travel for you. Makes no sense. It's a version of, it's like giving up the only thing you have, which is your experience. Like it's supposed to be yours.
Deeper these thoughts, or how do you actually can take it from a thought to like, how do you conceptualize these things and make them real?
The way I do it is I try to reduce how much I rely on typical concepts. So I try to rediscover everything. And it's weird because sometimes as you like take a close look at something, you like notice why this word means that. For example, they say life course. And it's like, life is a course. If you really think about it deeply enough, start to notice that it is like this learning experience, this experience where you're exposed to events and then you are supposed to evolve and learn. DNA always evolves, like people always evolve. There's a life course. You're like, okay, what I'm trying to say here, not to complicate it, how do I conceptualize these things? I try to look at them as brand new. And this might be a crazy example. This is like, might be the stupidest example, but at some point, when I was in a conversation with like a group of people, I had this thought. I was like, because when they were asking me something, starting a conversation, I was like, not interested in having this conversation. I was like, oh, I don't have to like respond to them. I can just stay silent. I can just look at them and look away. And that's interesting. Sounds crazy, but man, I don't think people realize they can do that. sounds like weird, awkward, rude, disrespectful, but you can do that. I got to notice that because I looked at the situation from a new lens and I got to reframe it for myself versus using the framework that everybody else is using. I don't know that. Does that make sense?
It's like a free will thing. Like we get caught in the daily routine. Like it's why do most people have 9 to 5s? Why did most people go to university? It's because we just follow what we think we're supposed to do. And we don't even know why we think we're supposed to do it. And so to your point, there's rules in society that it's interesting to question and ask why. To your point, you could stand up and walk away. You could never see that person again. You can do whatever you want. It's surprising to most people, I think, to think we have free will and we can just change our mind and go completely against the grain, drop out of school, quit your job tomorrow. Like it's interesting to me to think I could just go to the airport right now and fly somewhere and never come back. Like you could do that. You could. You might not.
What happened in that moment? I'm
Think.
curious. Was there like an enjoyment in the discomfort? Was there no more discomfort? Was it more like an awareness of sitting in the moment and going, I'm aware of the options I have in terms of to respond or not? You know what I mean? Like how was the experience inside the experience?
Man, it's so freeing. It's crazy how freeing that is. Yeah, people don't notice their options. So that's an experience. There's just like one experience I had, but then I'll have it reoccurring in new situation. I find it's like this thing where if you put a little crack, then it starts to crack even more on its own. Does that make sense? You just have to put the first one. I think door-to-door sales for me was that first crack because when I knocked doors, I could see how I was able to influence other people and how I was able to lead them
Is
in a certain
influencing good or
direction.
bad? I have to ask.
And
is it manipulating or is it, healthy and good? I'm curious what your thoughts are on it. Is influencing good or bad? What a rough question to ask.
I really wonder about this question. And I even took a course about influence, like psychology, like university level. And I talked with my professor about this. And I shared with her like what I do as a marketer, what I've done as a salesperson. And ultimately, it's very context dependent. I think you get to decide whether it's good or bad because ultimately influence is always happening, whether on autopilot or consciously, it's still influence. Like people will often frame influence or as a bad thing because it's also very interesting that we can say no. People don't realize they can say no. One thing, interesting thing I noticed is my concept of influence has changed as I got better at saying no. Now that I've got better at saying no, I respect people who try to influence me because they're passionate about something. They want something to happen. They have a vision and they want me to be a part of it. It's my choice to say yes or no, but I respect that. So that's kind of how I see it now. There's just so many like variables that will influence your view of it. But what do you guys think?
I agree with you. I think that it's context-based. I think that it can be good, it can be bad. Probably comes partially from intention, but at the end of the day, people can have good intentions and lead people down bad paths too. And then also it comes to like, if we're talking about questioning everything, it's like, what is good, what is bad? Like, how do you even define that? Because good to you might be bad to me and vice versa. It's pretty tough to say. That's why I think, again, the free will part is an important element because at the end of the day, I'm acting with my best intention and trying to influence on that front. And people choose with their own free will to follow, assuming I'm not aiming to influence people who are young or something like that, who don't necessarily maybe have fully developed brains. If I'm going out, like trying to influence adults, what's wrong with that? With good intention, to me, that would be the thing.
The way society is structured, like parents have full influence over their children for like their most important years. And somebody might say that's like really bad because they say that by the age of 5, the person's like fully formed or mostly formed. And who influences that? It's parents. And they literally have legal right over that. Children don't have the right to make their own choices.
I gotta interrupt. I'm thinking I actually disagree with that, Rowan. I think, and a fun disagreement, but I think conditionings happen to the parents or influence has taken place on the parent. And although there's control of, let's say, the kid, it's like almost like a pass through. I wonder how much actual free will they experience when you think of, let's say, birth, or when you think of education and you think of health choices and dietary. Is it being passed through them as their own thought and labeled as free will, or is it not? It's an interesting one to break out and explore more, which is also why I think it's interesting that your core almost like thesis with yourself is what Quinn's picking up, which is this free will, the freedom in the moment, the freedom in the choice. It's a fun operating system you have, I think. Do you think it's a fun way to live for you?
I was just thinking about my life recently and I realized there's like nothing that would change about it. It's so immersive, right? I think people dissociate from their lives and they go through life and it presents them with certain situations and they choose to disengage. They choose to walk away from feelings, from relationships, just difficult situations because of how they frame it as well. Like they frame it that way to themselves. It seems
Dissociate versus what? What's their alternative choice? Let's say they do dissociate. What's the alternative?
the alternative is like full immersion in what's in front of you. If you're in a conversation and there's some type of discomfort, like doubling down on figuring it out, like doubling down on what you feel and where that leads you and going that direction.
It's like that Winston Churchill, right? When in hell, keep going. Like it's one of my all-time favorite. He's thinking of his troop. He's thinking of fear point in history, that folks can go back and remember. And he goes, when in hell, keep going. And it's almost that same idea of doubling down, just get through to the other side, because that is your only choice. And I wonder if that's the same thing for you when you talk about immersion and choice. And inside of these experiences, it's like, I might as well just keep going through the moment, see what comes out the other side. And then knowing that's probably where that excitement, or maybe there's an endorphin rush, or that adds to your database. And that's where the excitement comes from. What do you think?
Yeah, it's very interesting. I align with that, but from a different lens. There's something I noticed. There's a lot of interesting mindset pieces, but a lot of it's based on some type of avoidance or some type of pull. Like some people will say like, go through hell. Sometimes that type of statement comes from a place of like some type of like fear/euphoria. Like it's like a feeling that drives people to think that way. I actually try to like remove emotions out of it. And the way I look at it is like we get to experience all sorts of emotions and feelings. And people tend to welcome positive feelings into their lives with open arms. But then the second something happens that makes them feel this like pain, right? A form of pain, whether it's rejection or fear or anxiety, they push that away. And there's a problem in that because feelings, they're all resources and they're all guiding us to somewhere. And like negative feelings, like people push them away, but they are just as valuable as the positive ones. And I think it's so important to welcome painful feelings into your life with open arms, just like you do with positive ones. You can sit with those feelings and understand why you're even experiencing them. Like, what is it in your life? What puzzle piece is missing that's causing you to have this feeling? And people ignore this. They dissociate, they walk away, so they never get to figure out where they're supposed to go in their life. And they're always confused. And they do for so long that their life they live gets further and further from the version that's ideal, as they say, their full potential. And it becomes even harder. And so they dissociate even more. Like my philosophy is whatever feeling comes into your life, whether it's like joy, love, hatred, envy, like rejection, you have to like go to the very center of it and extract the data point. And that means sitting with that feeling. At some point, you're going to notice what's causing it. And once you notice that, the feeling just goes away, just disappears.
I love that. I love it. Quinn and I have chatted about that a few times. Like that idea of the emotion sitting in the house like a neighbor or a guest. Remember, Q?
Totally.
A friend was mentioning it, and we use it from time to time. But this idea of imagine emotion's a neighbor. They knock on your door, and essentially you just have to open the door. They just kind of walk their way in, sitting in the living room with you. And it's like an uninvited example here. And then they sit. What are you supposed to do? You fight them and kick them out of your house? Well, no, that's kind of engaging with them. It's choice. In theory, is to just sit there and wait for them to leave. An emotion, good or bad, essentially will on its own actually get up, leave the home, close the door. And there's a wonderful moment to notice what senses come up, the experience of the emotion, which is the neighbor sitting on the couch in your living room, uninvited, and then leaving. And what do you notice? And then what you notice is sort of a path you can follow. Actually can act as a form of guidance, which I think is interesting as a thought. But to move on, my friends.
Can I ask one each? Because I had one sitting in my head before we move on.
Yeah, please.
Similar topic, but just is in my mind. I want to ask. So through the discovery of like free will and figuring yourself out and realizing you can go against the grain if you want to, what do you think's been the biggest realization that's come to you since finding that out? What would most of the general public sit there and never question, but you've had the biggest realization that was like an aha moment and it changed your world for the best? Or just something even that would be shocking?
So as you look at life and interpret what it means and what you should do in this life, there's all these concepts available to you from other people. You should get a job in this industry. You should get this type of house, this type of food. There's all of these pieces of advice available to you. And a lot of people just kind of like pick them up and run with them, not even knowing why they're doing it. One thing I realized from my life is the quickest way to happiness is like relationships. So I looked outside of this whole like thing, this picture that's being thrown at me, and I looked the other way. And what I realized is that to live a good life, you just need to have good conversations and like good relationships. It's really that simple. Man, whoever's viewing this, or even you guys, ask yourself right now, like if you had an extra $1 million in your bank account right now, how would this moment, this past moment be different? How could money make it any better? This moment? Could it
No.
not? No.
No, definitely.
I ask myself this question like every week, and like randomly comes, and I'm like, it wouldn't have an effect. So my point is, from looking
interesting.
outside of the norms, the one thing that stood out to me is that life is like extremely simple. It's just having good conversation. And that's it. And I mean, how to have a good conversation, that's a whole different thing.
Good company is an interesting thing too, because it's like sometimes doing nothing with the right people is just as good as anything. Like you can go on a walk or whatever through nature and you can do it alone, which can be great. But you could sometimes do it with your favorite person. And in that walk, there doesn't have to be conversation, but the experience of feeling like you're doing it together. Like to me, if you say $1 million in your bank account or your favorite person next to you right now, what would you prefer? It seems like a really obvious option. The moment to moment experience of life. I think that's really interesting.
Another way of looking at it is, if you really think about it, like if you traveled enough, if you've had enough relationships in your life, you'll start to notice that like you could go to a new country, but it doesn't feel that new to you. Like at the end of the day, like all people are similar, all cities are similar. They might look different. So on the surface level, every day seems like we're having a new day. Or when we travel, it feels like we're having a new experience. But at the end of the day, it comes down to like very simple things. We're always just like speaking, sitting, walking, eating, writing. Like the actions are always the same every single day. The only difference that changes is the wrapper. Does that make sense? I always thought a way to think about life, because no matter if I'm Mexico City, Edmonton, Alberta, or New York, I'm just surrounded by buildings. I'm just surrounded by people. I'm just having conversations. And it's like, what does that mean?
I wonder, Romy, like part of this all ties back into learning how to conversate, learning how to ask questions externally, which also perhaps leads to asking better questions internally and intrinsically. And I wonder if it all connects. Or maybe it's a question for both of you. Are all of us born the same with this? The goal is to kind of uncover how to ask good questions to rediscover why we're all here. Or is it like just a hard skill that we should all be learning how to almost like force ourselves? It's a fundamental skill to learn how to ask.
I actually have like a strong opinion on this. There's like been like cases where people got stranded, children, and left in the wild, and then got found at like 15 years old or something. I forgot the exact numbers, but when found, they never got to learn language. They never learned the ability to ask a question. Like they don't have that skill set.
Wait, are you talking about these people that grew up with wolves and stuff?
Yeah. And then they try to teach them to speak. They try to teach them a language, like, and they couldn't. They could only learn like maybe a couple of words over like many years. So it's definitely a learned skill. And there's only so much time you have to learn this skill, or like that's set the foundation. So when I look at language, I believe it's a skill set. It's something that like we have the privilege of getting to learn it by default because we're born into society that just exposes us to opportunities to learn it. But it is a skill that you have to learn. And I think people don't realize that just because you know how to speak English or whatever language you speak, that's enough. Like it's an entire art and a science to learn to be a good communicator, to paint the picture that you have in your mind to the people in a way that aligns both ways.
Almost to practice articulating concepts and ideas that are also vague, obscure, challenging, unseen, like, and then to find a way to simplify it and say them is also why the work is worthwhile, to practice how to conversate. It helps you formulate ideas, maybe in the ether where things are gray and unknown.
Truth is, and Hannah probably remembers, like when I first got into the door-to-door sales when I was 18, I was good at communication, but I also really sucked at the same time. And the reason I sucked at it was because I overcomplicated things. I was too decorative. There's all these blockages that were in the way for me for whatever reason. For example, being decorative in how you talk about things versus being straight to the point versus simplifying. Where did that come from? Who knows? So it's interesting because to do sales, to do door-to-door sales, to learn to communicate is also a personal development experience. Because you're not just, when you do sales, you're not just changing how you speak, you're changing how you are.
Like that. So I'm gonna go to your social media life now quickly. Was it like 70 million views in just a few weeks? I'm curious how what you learned in psychology, direct sales, door to door, all of it. Like, what are some things you can teach others in a quick moment or two? But also, what are some of the things you learned in being able to execute so well in that space?
Yeah, you guys are going to love this because this is what you do now. You do sales, door-to-door sales right now. So one concept I'm going to mention here is the finding the why, finding the right why in the neighborhood you're selling to. Like if you're knocking doors in a neighborhood of 50 houses, these people, they know each other, they see each other every day. It's a small community, and there are certain things that tie these people together. And when you knock on their doors, one way to really stand out and connect with them is by leading with some type of reason why you're there that makes sense in their minds. Like if there was let's say a break-in 2 weeks ago, just bring up the reason I'm here is because we've been getting a lot of phone calls coming in, given what happened. See, I've been out of work for a while, so I wouldn't actually say it like that. But the point is finding some type of experience they share in common and using that as the why, right? So when it comes to social media, the way I've been able to, in this instance, generate 67 million views for a company in 30 days was by searching the company I did it for. They are in the corporate space and they're looking to target people who work in corporate. So I went on a search to find the why. What ties these corporate people together? To do that, I go to door, like knock on doors to talk to people to find out. I went out and watched the videos that corporate people watch to see what's in common between these videos, what's making them go viral. I started to spot some patterns like, oh, they love to have inside jokes and making videos about that. There's certain inside jokes like my 5 to 9 after my 9 to 5. And like the person's just like sitting, staring at the wall for hours and they find it hilarious. That's a shared experience they have, right? So in terms of like alignment between like sales and door to door and social media, just like you knock doors to find out the commonalities, you watch videos that they watch to find commonalities. And then you generate videos based on this, just like you generate your pitch based on this. In simple words, how is, you just gotta learn your people. And social media allows to do that on scale because you can literally see what they're watching.
You can see the data. You can pick up patterns and actually be looking at the patterns, not just inferring, I guess.
You can see the comments. Like it's even easier online than door to door because you can see the comments. You can see like how people are reacting with their words, like what words they're choosing to say back to express like this connection to this piece of content.
Do you think this is the sample size the same though? Let's say when you're looking for why and commonalities, whether it's at the door or online.
So I'll give you an example. If a video has got like 5 million views and it was made by a person who doesn't have a million followers, like if a normal person with 30,000 followers made a video and went viral, you know that that video, that concept that's in it has inherent value to the audience. So the sample size is in that video getting 5 million views. That's all you need to know. Like 5 million people watched it. Now you know. But if it didn't make past 1,000 views, there's more work to be done. There needs to be polished more. One thing I'll say that's really interesting, certain concepts, so like in any topic or like group of people that like niche, as they say, certain concepts, if recreated 20 times, will go viral 8 times out of 20 because the alignment is that strong. It's like finding the perfect why on the doors and everyone's like responding positively to you. Before, 5 doors before this, everybody's slamming doors, but now everybody's like stuck to you. Like they don't even want to leave the conversation because of how connected they feel to your message.
I love that analogy. And I'm going to end with this for every single guest that we spend time with is why is the door still king, Roman?
The door is still king because it is the most original source of where you can learn all these principles. Like if you're running meta ads, if you're doing content, you're doing stuff online, you have no feedback or you get some feedback, but partial feedback. On the doors, you get to see exactly what's going on with a person after they receive your message. I believe that door to door is like learning like addition in math. To do like online marketing without door-to-door sales or like in-person sales is the equivalent of skipping addition and subtraction in math and trying to do calculus.
That's pretty good. You any final thoughts? That was fun. Yeah, Rome, thank you all the way from Mexico City. Yeah, always so much fun. I love how your brain works. I'm excited to see what you do next. You're building some very cool tools. I don't know if you want to add them or say anything about them right now as we close out. You're building some really cool things and excited for your journey.
Yeah, if people are curious, I'm on every social media platform. Very, very, very easy to find.
Very easy. Okay, thanks, Romy. See you.